everyone. Okay, so this is a chapter I love for multiple different reasons. One of the more obvious ones is just how twisted and depraved the whole tone of the chapter was. And it's not because Mashima did anything spectacular, but just through simplistic imagery and characterization, he managed to give the tone of this chapter a really unsettling vibe. And just reading the chapter itself, I was actually it made me so uncomfortable to to see some of this, to see some of these reveals, that it made some of this imagery, some of this reveals, that I felt my stomach kind of churning a little bit. Like it was it was it was one thing in order to use a hologram of it was one thing for pretty much Killer to use a hologram of Weiss's dead mother, but to mess with him even further. But the deeper we go and the further we get into this chapter, to the point where we realize that she's not only been, well, supposedly alive this whole time, but that Killer has been keeping her in a suspension tank, in a tank of suspension fluid this whole time, just for the simple reason of wanting to mess with Weisz, of wanting to see him squirm, in order to really emotionally fuck with him. That it makes you realize, like, Killer, it's one of those things where it's just disturbing that Killer went that route to begin with, but it also makes you realize Killer had Weisz marked from the very beginning. And I love how this whole chapter, it kind of touches very loosely on the idea of how technology is truly like a neutral concept, and how our perception on it can change from moment to moment based on circumstance. Like in this case, even though Weisz is for the most part horrified, just pretty much based on his very predictable reactions, like, some part of Weisz is relieved to see his mother alive in whatever manner that may be. However, he's also horrified by the means it was supposedly achieved. And credit where it's due, despite still having my reservations about whatever possibility Mashima might try to link between Hermit and Killer, I love how, despite how despicable yet coldly methodical Killer was throughout this chapter. Like, again, taking absolute control of the situation and getting in Weiss's head, which also leads into the other thing I loved about this chapter, the action. Like, I loved how, leading up to the big reveal with Weiss's mother, the action felt very balanced. Like, even if it felt like Killer was in control of the fight, the whole time, I love how, on a more physical scale, but both pretty much Killer and Weisz were pretty much matching each other, like move for move, point for point. Even in some respects, Weisz gaining a slight upper hand, but like showing the similarities in how they think. But at the same time, it was also conducted in a way where it didn't feel like it was downplaying like one character's strength over the other. And I definitely love fights like that don't try to play up the power of one character or the other. Just keep it all balanced, kind of thing. Now, with that said, we do need to talk about Weiss's mother, more specifically her future in this series, in the series, because I'm not gonna lie, after this reveal, Mashima has opened up a weird can of worms, where on one hand, I actually kind of want her to survive now, but on the other hand, we don't know if Killer had done anything else in order to use against Weisz. And in that regard, I would actually like it more if in some way, like Weiss's mother still pretty much ends up like in a situation of being fated to die, but she and Weisz also get one more final moment together before she passes on. But in either case, like, I feel the biggest thing that is going to come out of this is Weisz will finally get some closure for what happened. He won't blame himself for pretty much the day that he felt he couldn't save his mother. Also, one thing I really liked about this reveal is how it kind of throws a little bit of shade on Norma as well, because all the customs he thought that Norma followed when it comes to death might have just proved to be false with the reveal that his mother's has been alive all this time. And now that Weisz knows they used his mother's a medical experiment, it just kind of begs the question of how many more people they've done this to as well. Was Weisz's mother really the only one they did this to they did this medical experiment on, or were there others as well? And I'm not saying I want a whole arc exploring this, but I definitely wouldn't be opposed to a flashback to get more details about this, because Mashima definitely left the details of what happened here a little vague, and I think there is some room in order to just explore like this concept in itself. Like again, even just like a flashback, I think is enough. Like would be enough to really would be really interesting to see just how this happened, kind of what the details are, why pretty much Norma had done this kind of thing. Like again, just a flashback would be nice. And yeah, as I said before, I'll be very curious to see if Weisz gets out of this one, if at all, because Killer's kind of got Weisz pegged at this point. I'm kind of like the one thing I'm thinking with how this chapter ends is I'm kind of thinking this is setting up the perfect opportunity to help in order for Shiki to help. But honestly, even then, I'm wondering if Shiki's gonna be enough, and they're gonna and they're almost gonna need to call upon Herman in some way. Because aside from Weisz, Herman is the only one I can think of to actually match like Killer's abilities and skills. And while I'm not gonna say there isn't a possibility to win with Shiki's help, again, this feels like a situation where this is a fight for Weisz to lose. Like, I'm not like the thing about Killer this fight right now is Killer has Weisz so backed up against a wall that I'm not seeing an out in order for Weisz to win when Killer has him so emotionally pegged with the way he's holding his mother hostage. Like I don't know. Right now, there's only a handful of avenues I can see for Weisz to win this, but all of them like either involve Shiki, Hermit, or making the ultimate sacrifice of just choosing to kill his mother. And while this chapter could very well lead Weisz to in order to do that, the way I know Weiss's character, he probably wants to do it on his own terms, not by the whims of Killer's little game that he's being forced to play, which I think is why Shiki's here, so he won't be forced to make that choice, which, yeah, a little convenient, but all the pieces are in place to make it work. Like, it's just right now, it's just kind of a question of what route Mashima goes with this, but something is just telling me Weisz is gonna lose this fight. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but it feels like that's the route this has to go now. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the videos around, guys. Dark Knight Renee, signing off. Later, everyone.